Welcome back to the Swift channel. Today, I'm going to show you how to use FSCalendar, okay? This is a really dope framework, awesome video here that I'm creating for you guys. Go ahead and watch this, all right? You're going to learn how to use this calendar framework and it's super awesome. It's kind of similar to like how Apple does things like, well, I guess obviously it's going to, but basically it's got like its own protocols like DataSource and Delegate so that you can use it the same way you'd use a UI table view or something, okay? It's really awesome. Or a UI collection view would be a better example. So what I'm gonna do is show you how to do this. Let's go ahead and jump into it after I plug my courses. Okay, so see you in just a second. All right. If you just want to learn iOS development as fast as possible, then you're going to want to take a look at my courses. I have a link in the description below that gives you the lowest possible price I can give you on all of my courses. Now, this is my highest enrolled class and it has a very high rating and it's been in the top Swift courses on Udemy consistently. But if I'm being 100% honest, the course that I would recommend you take by me is the Advanced Collection View Flow Layouts. You'll see that in this preview, if you go and watch it, you'll learn how to create the Pinterest layout, the drag and drop layout where you can drag and drop UI collection view cells and a lot more, okay? You'll learn how to use programmatic auto layout and stuff like that. Now, if that's not your jam, you can definitely check out the Advanced Table View iOS app development course. And it has 59 lectures, around 6 hours or so. And you're going to learn everything about table views, okay? By building out two specific apps. All right. You'll also be learning how to animate auto layout constraints and put in images with programmatic auto layout and all that stuff, okay? So let's stop talking about this and let's hop into today's video. All right, so I've opened up a new Xcode project. This is completely blank, haven't done anything with it other than removing that comment. And we're gonna want to import a framework called FSCalendar, but we haven't really installed it yet. So what we need to do is we need to use CocoaPods to do that. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna right click on the project, the entire project here, and I'm gonna hit Reveal in Finder or Show in Finder. Okay, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to click back into my view controller and I'm actually going to exit out of the project because as we install this CocoaPod, we are going to need to open it up with the Xcode workspace directory if you have any experience with CocoaPods. Okay. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up the deal here. Okay. So I have FSCalendar here. I'll also make a video on what's new in Swift 5. So keep on the lookout for that tomorrow. And here, FSCalendar is the framework, link in description again, or you can just follow along. You shouldn't need to use the link here. You should just be able to follow along. And what we're going to want to do is put in this pod into our pod file that we're going to create, okay? So I'm going to copy that. Feel free to copy it as well, or just type in what I type in. And I'm going to go to my terminal, okay? So open up your terminal. Here's my directory for the Notes app course I'm making, showing you how to build out the Notes app with and learn everything about core data. Wasn't planning on talking about that yet, but that's going to be a thing, okay? So just keep your eye on the description. All right, next thing we're going to do here is we are going to CD, so type in CD in your terminal and just drag the entire project folder into here, okay? So mine's in code projects and I call that FSCalendar, bruh. So go ahead and CD into your project. And then if I say ls, you'll see we have FSCalendar, and then we have FSCalendar.xcode project. Okay, so we have those two things right there. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to say vim pod file or use whatever, or sorry, I'm going to say pod init first, and you'll see that it creates a pod file. Okay, so that's going to appear in there. You'll see that pod file. Now you can edit this in whatever editor you want. And if you do it not inside of the terminal, you're actually going to want to copy and paste that to get the ticks right, or it's not going to work for you. So again, the link is in the description to this repo if you need help copying that. And what we're going to do is we are going to say vim pod file. Okay, if you don't have vim installed, I don't even know if it comes stock on Macs. I don't think it does, but I'm going to use vim. You can use nano, or you can just use like Sublime Text or whatever editor you prefer, or even TextEdit. All right, I'm going to paste that in there, and you'll see I just pasted pod FSCalendar with those correct ticks, and then I'm going to hit escape:WQ to write and quit the file. That's just some vim. You don't really need to know about that. And then I'm going to say pod install, okay? So the three main things you need to know here is pod init, vim pod file, or editing your pod file and putting the FSCalendar in there, and then pod install. So you just have to initialize the pod file, edit the pod file, and then install the pod file, okay? All right, so that's been installed, and you'll see now we have all these extra files. We can now get out of the terminal. We don't use that. If you have any errors here, drop a comment and I'll help you out. But now I'm gonna move on. So I'm gonna open it up with this Xcode workspace folder. Okay, I'm also gonna select iPhone XR, and then I'm gonna open up this little guy and this, and go into viewcontroller.swift, and we're ready to start coding, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do is we are gonna go into here and we're gonna go down here to the Swift usage. We're not gonna be using storyboards, junk that idea. We're gonna be using frames, and then we're gonna go to programmatic auto layout, so NS layout constraint. All right, so what you'll see here in the bottom, let's see, it's way down here. You'll see, okay, never mind, maybe it's way up here. Okay, there you go. It says or use code, right? The optimal way. Basically, what we're going to do is go to the Swift section. And when I first saw this, I was like, no, it's an Objective-C only. And then I realized, oh, or Swift. Okay, but basically, we want to create this bridge header or whatever they're calling this here inside of our code, okay? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go into here, and we need to import FSCalendar. So say import FSCalendar. And then what we can do is paste that right here. Okay, so pause the video and get this code in. I'm gonna head back to Chrome, and I accidentally clicked on that link. Well, I didn't accidentally click on it, but it's just taken a couple years to load, so I'm not gonna click on it. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this. You'll see it says in load view or view did load. Basically, this is our code to initialize it. So we are creating the calendar with a frame, and then we are setting the delegates, and then we're adding it to the subview. What I'm going to do is comment out these delegate and data source protocol sets, and I'm just going to recompile the application and see if it pops up. And while that's happening, what we're going to do is we're going to implement the protocols. Okay, so we'll say extension view controller, and we'll just say FSCalendar data source and FSCalendar delegate, and we're going to click through these and see the header file for these two protocols so that we can use them in our app here effectively, okay? All right, so it's compiled, and all right, so this is what we get. So now let's talk about the delegate and data source protocols and how we can use them in FSCalendar or with FSCalendar, right? All right, so let's go ahead and let's go into data source and delegate here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start typing title, okay? We're going to select this method that says title for date. You'll also see it says asks the data source for a title for the specified date as a replacement of the date text. So you can customize your calendars with this framework really easily, okay? So title for date, we can return something like, obviously you'd make this custom for pretty much every day, maybe, I don't know, just depending on whatever you want to use this for, right? Like, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to return like one string for all of them, okay? Just to show you that it works. So I'll say maxcodes.io. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say subtitle, okay? So subtitle, and we can just return subscribe, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll uncomment the data source and delegate, and if we recompile this, we should get that on our calendar, okay? And while that's compiling, what I want you to do is click into FSCalendar data source. If you click into this, you'll get a header file, and I'll make this bigger. If you'll get a header file that describes each one of the methods. So you have title for date, subtitle for date, image for date, minimum date for calendar, maximum date for calendar, cell for date. So very similar to like cell for row at index path in something like table view. So that's pretty sick, right? And it's the same with the data source or the delegate. If you command click into the delegate, you'll see we have should select date, did select date, should deselect date, did select. We basically have very similar methods as to what you'd find inside of like table view or collection view, okay? So you can see now here on the right that it works, right? And obviously you are gonna have to customize this to be a very certain way that you want, but I'm just here to show you how to generally use it, right? Like I just wanna get you a good start into this and then you can use it however you want, okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead and check out the cell for row at method. You'll see cell for row at or cell for date at, sorry. And then what we can do is we can dequeue a cell very similarly to how we would dequeue a cell in a table view, okay? Which means we also have to register it. So what we'll do is we'll say let cell is equal to calendar.dequeue reusable cell with identifier, and I'm just gonna say cell with capital cell. And then for date, I'm gonna say date because we have the date here in the function that we're provided. And then I'm going to hit tab and pass in position as well. So all provided here by the delegate, okay, or the data source. Next thing we'll do is return the cell and we should be good, okay? I'm also going to comment out the title for and the subtitle for. And then what we can do is say something like cell dot, and then we can set properties in here, right? So you'll see we have image views, right? I'm gonna show you how to do that, but real quick, let me compile it and show you that it crashes unless we register it, which you're probably already aware of if you've done any work with table views or collection views, that you have to register your cells to dequeue them, right? All right, so it says terminating with uncaught exception of type NS exception. And then if you scroll up here in the log, you'll see that it gives us a very similar error to like what a collection view or table view does. UI collection element kind cell with identifier cell must register, right? So what we'll do is we'll kill the app, we'll go back, and then we'll go into our view did load here, and we'll say calendar, and I'll do it before we add it, just because we're setting the file private weak var, and we'll say calendar dot register cell class, and I'm just going to say FSCalendar cell dot self for reuse identifier cell, because that's what I use down here in the method. So now when I compile this, it's not going to break, and you're now in a good spot to customize the cell how you want, okay? And that's what leads us into image views in this video, okay? So what we need to do is get an image view somewhere on our computer and throw it into our project, okay? So what I'm gonna do is find an image here. Oh, there's one. And what we're gonna do with this image is we're gonna throw it in. Now you don't have to use images, you can just watch along if you want. If you wanna use an image, feel free, go ahead and just drag it into your assets. I'm not gonna provide the image, you can just Google HackerMan and you'll get that same image. All right, next thing I'll do is with this image, here's our table view. With this image, what we want to do is we want to implement a method called image for date. Ask the data source for an image for the specified date. If you hit return there, we can now provide an image. So I'll say return UI image named, and I'm just going to say HackerMan because that's what I put in there, okay? And then now what's going to happen is we're going to be provided this image, but it's going to be way too big and it's just going to block out our entire calendar view, right? Which is obviously a problem, but it's a really easy fix, and we're going to fix it by using the cell for data method and setting the content code of the image. So you probably want to give that a shot right now, you can. Okay, you'll see it's way too big, but what we can do is simply say cell.imageview.content mode is equal to .scale aspect fit. And if we recompile this now, we should be good to go, and it should show the image in each one of our cells, okay? So that's what you can use to put images inside of your calendar days, and how you can actually get them to scale properly, because obviously that first image was way too big. All right, so it's up for use for whatever you want. Next thing we're going to do, last thing we're going to do is constrain it instead of using a frame. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say calendar.translates auto resizing mask and constraints is equal to false. And then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to constrain it after we add it to the sub view. Okay, so I'm going to say calendar, and then I'll say dot center y anchor dot constraint is equal to view dot center y anchor. Come on, dot is active is equal to true. And then I'll just copy this and say center X anchor on both of these instead of center Y. That way it's centered perfectly in the screen. And then now all we have to do is give it a width and height, okay? So I'll say calendar dot height anchor dot constraint is equal to, and I'll say for the height, let's say 275 or something, that is active is equal to true. I think that's what I put in the original project that I was working on this morning. And then I'll do calendar.width anchor.constraint is equal to, and what I'm going to do here is just say view.frame.width is active is true, okay? And I'll minus like maybe 40 from this, from the view.frame.width, just to show you that center X and center Y anchors it perfectly, okay? It looks like we got an error. What I need to do is say equal to constant, okay? And then equal to constant. Okay, boot that up, And we should have a nice looking calendar here in our iPhone app that you can now modify and use how you please. This is a really awesome library that is super easy to use. I discovered it yesterday or a couple days ago. I just barely started using it today, and I already know how to use it because of how simple and easy it is to use. It's not because I'm a genius, it's because it's easy to use. You'll also see if you drag here, it will do that, okay? All right, so that's it for this video. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something. If you did, drop a comment, leave a like, and definitely get them courses, all right? So I'll see you all in the next video I post.